Clock, and Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco.
Oh.
When was Alan riding his motorcycle?
At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding
Well, at 5 o'clock,
motorcycle.
right? At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding his motorcycle. Was Alan riding his car? Or was Alan riding his motorcycle?
Alan was riding his
Of
motorcycle.
course, Alan was riding his motorcycle. Where was Alan riding his motorcycle?
In San Francisco,
In
Alan
San
was
Francisco.
riding his motorcycle in San Francisco.
Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco. When was he riding?
It's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock,
Alan
Alan was riding his motorcycle
in San
in
Francisco.
San Francisco. He was riding down Van Ness Street and came to a stoplight.
Oh.
Who was riding down Van Ness Street?
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street.
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street. What was he riding on? On a motorcycle.
Was riding
He was
on
riding
motorcycle.
on his motorcycle. Was he riding down Market Street?
No. He was riding down Van Ness Street.
Not Market Street. He wasn't riding down Market Street. Was he riding down Lombard Street?
No. He
No.
was
He
riding
wasn't
down Van
riding
Ness
down
Street.
Lombard Street. He was riding down Van Ness Street. When? When was he riding down Van Ness Street?
At 5 o'clock, he was riding down Van Ness Street.
At 5 o'clock, he was riding down Van Ness Street. Who was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock?
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock.
Alan was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock. Was he in a truck? No, he wasn't in a truck. He was on his motorcycle. And he came to a stoplight.
Oh.
Did Alan come to a go light?
No. Alan
No.
stop line.
He didn't come to a go light. He came to a stop light. We never say go light. We only say stop light. Who came to a stop light?
Alan came to a stop line.
Alan, of course. Alan came to a stoplight. What was he on when he came to a stoplight? A motorcycle. He was on a motorcycle when he came to a stoplight. Where was the stoplight?
On Van Ness Street.
Well, on Van Ness Street. The stoplight was on Van Ness Street. Was the stoplight on Embarcadero Street? Or was the stoplight on Van Ness Street?
The stop line on Van Ness Street.
Van Ness, of course, Van Ness. The stoplight was on Van Ness Street. Who was at the stoplight?
Alan was at the stop line.
Alan was at the stoplight. Which city was Alan in? In San Francisco, of course.
Alan was in San
Alan was
Francisco.
in San Francisco. Where is Van Ness?
Van Ness Street in San Francisco.
Van Ness Street is in San Francisco. Of course, Van Ness Street is in San Francisco. Is Van Ness Street in New York, or is Van Ness Street in San Francisco?
Van Ness Street in San Francisco.
Well, of course, Van Ness Street is in San Francisco. Where was Alan riding?
He was riding on Van Ness Street in San
He was
Francisco.
riding on Van Ness Street in San Francisco. And he came to a stoplight. A red Ferrari pulled up next to him.
Oh.
Did the red Ferrari pull up behind him?
No, the referee pulled up next to him.
No, not behind him. The red Ferrari pulled up next to him. What pulled up next to Alan?
The referee pulled up next to him.
A red Ferrari. A red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan. Did Alan pull up next to a red Ferrari?
No, a referee pulled up next to Alan.
No. Alan didn't pull up next to a red Ferrari. A red Ferrari pulled up next to him. Where did the red Ferrari pull up next to Alan?
A stoplight on Van Ness Street. A referee pulled up
stoplight.
next to Alan.
On Van Ness Street. At a stoplight on Van Ness Street, a red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan. Was Alan in a red Ferrari?
No.
No. Alan wasn't in a red Ferrari. He was on a motorcycle. Alan was on a motorcycle. What did the red Ferrari do?
It pulled up next to Alan.
It pulled up next to Alan. The red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan. The driver was wearing dark sunglasses.
Oh.
No, Alan was wearing dark sunglasses.
No, not Alan.
No, not Alan. Alan wasn't wearing dark sunglasses. Who was wearing dark sunglasses?
The driver wearing dark sunglasses.
The driver of the Ferrari. The driver of the Ferrari was wearing dark sunglasses, not Alan. The driver looked over at Alan.
Oh.
Did the driver look behind Alan?
No. Look over at Alan.
No. He looked over at Alan. Who looked over at Alan?
The driver referee looked
the
over
Ferrari.
at Alan.
Looked over at Alan. Did Alan look over at the driver?
Yes. Alan looked over at
Yes,
the
he did.
driver.
Alan also looked over at the driver. Who was the driver?
Tom Cruise
Tom Cruise! Tom Cruise
was
the
the
driver.
driver.
Alan looked over at the driver and realized that the driver was Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Who was the driver of the Ferrari?
Tom Cruise was driver of
Tom Cruise.
the
Tom Cruise was the driver of the Ferrari. Who was the motorcycle rider?
Alan was the
Alan
motorcycle
was the
rider.
motorcycle rider. And Tom Cruise was the driver of the Ferrari. looked over at Alan.
Tom Cruise look over at Alan.
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise looked over at Alan. What was Tom Cruise wearing?
Tom Cruise wearing dark sunglasses.
Sunglasses. Tom Cruise was wearing dark sunglasses. Was Alan wearing dark sunglasses?
No, Tom Cruise.
No, he wasn't. Alan wasn't wearing dark sunglasses. Tom Cruise was wearing dark sunglasses. And he looked over at Alan. Tom sneered at Alan.
Oh.
Oh no. Did Tom smile? No, he didn't. Tom didn't smile. He sneered
At Alan.
Alan. Was Tom friendly and nice?
No, he's near Alan.
No, he wasn't friendly and nice. He sneered at Alan. Did Alan sneer at Tom Cruise? Or did Tom Cruise sneer at Alan?
So near at Alan.
Tom Cruise sneered at Alan. After he sneered, what did Tom Cruise say?
Tom Cruise said, when the light turns green,
He
let's
said,
race.
when the light turns green, let's race. After he sneered at Alan, Tom Cruise said, when the light turns green, let's race. Did Tom want to race?
Yes, he went to the
Yes,
race.
of course. He had a Ferrari. He wanted to race. Alan said, all right, you're on.
Oh.
Did Alan agree to race Tom?
Yes, he agreed.
Yeah, he agreed. He said, you're on. Did Tom say, you're on?
No, Alan said,
No,
you're
Tom
on.
didn't say, you're on. Alan said, you're on. Alan agreed to race. Who said, you're on?
Alan said, you're on.
Alan. Alan said, you're on. What did Alan agree to do?
Alan agreed to race.
To race. Alan agreed to race Tom. He said, you're on. Tom said, I'm gonna smoke you, sucker.
Oh.
Did Tom say he would beat Alan?
Yes, he said, I'm gonna
Yes,
beat
he did. He said, I'm gonna smoke you. I'm gonna beat you. Did Tom say he would win?
you. Yes, he said,
Yes, he said he would win. He said, I'm gonna smoke you. Who was Tom gonna smoke?
Alan.
Alan. Tom was gonna smoke Alan. Was Tom gonna smoke Schwarzenegger?
No, Tom was Alan.
No.
Alan.
No, Tom wasn't gonna smoke Arnold Schwarzenegger. Tom was gonna smoke Alan. Was Tom gonna smoke Alan?